No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Every morning, there's a battle that begins before you even open your eyes. You feel it when the alarm goes off and your mind whispers, 5 more minutes. You feel it when life weighs heavy, when distractions pull you off your path, when doubt crawls into your chest and convinces you that today can wait. That voice, the one that tells you to delay, to soften, to surrender, is the same voice every Stoic in history has fought against. Marcus Aurelius heard it before dawn as he lay in his bed of furs, weary from years of war. He wrote to himself, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." To be unstoppable is not to crush the world under your will. It is to master the part of you that resists becoming who you could be. The Stoics never promised peace through comfort, they promised peace through control, not of the world, but of yourself. When you begin to live with discipline, you become dangerous in the gentlest way. You no longer depend on motivation or circumstance. Your will becomes your weapon. Your routine becomes your armor. And your mind becomes the quiet ground on which chaos loses its power. The truth is, discipline is not natural. You weren't born with it. You built it through repetition, through hardship, through days when no one clapped for you. And that's what makes it sacred. You see, the Stoics lived in a world that was as unpredictable as ours: wars, loss, betrayal, wealth, disease. But their secret wasn't control over those things, it was control over the self that faced them. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself." Adversity is not your enemy. It's the mirror that shows you whether your philosophy is real or just words. Most people wait for motivation. The Stoic waits for resistance. Because resistance is where you meet yourself. You don't need to wake up perfect. You only need to wake up willing. Willing to do what must be done even when you don't feel like it. Willing to silence the excuses that sound reasonable in your head. Willing to hold yourself accountable when no one is watching. Self-discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect. It's telling your future self, "I won't abandon you." The modern world rewards comfort, but comfort kills character. Every time you choose the easier path, you strengthen the part of you that quits. Every time you choose the harder path, you feed the part of you that endures. Becoming unstoppable doesn't happen in a single day, it happens in 1,000 small choices. When you resist distraction. When you speak less and do more. When you turn pain into practice. To the Stoic, the mind is a citadel, a fortress no chaos can breach. But a fortress is only as strong as the walls you build daily. And here's where the real paradox lies. You become free only when you discipline yourself. You find peace only when you accept struggle. You gain power only when you surrender your desire for control over everything except yourself. You don't conquer the world by force. You conquer it by conquering yourself first. That's the first truth the Stoics taught, and the one most people avoid. It's easy to talk about motivation when life is calm. But when the storm comes, when the plan collapses, when fatigue settles into your bones and the excuses sound reasonable, that's when philosophy stops being a theory and becomes a weapon. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations for an audience, he wrote them to himself, in the dark corners of tents while wars raged outside. Each line was a reminder that the greatest empire to rule is not Rome, but one's own mind. Seneca reminded us that a person who cannot rule their impulses becomes a slave, not to others, but to their own desires. And Epictetus, born a slave himself, proved that freedom has nothing to do with chains. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So what does it mean to be master of yourself in the modern world? It means saying no when everything around you tells you to say yes. No to distraction. No to indulgence. No to the false idea that peace comes from ease. Because the truth is, the path of discipline is lonely at first. There are no crowds cheering you on when you choose to read instead of scroll, to train instead of sleep, to stay silent instead of argue. But the rewards of that loneliness are eternal, the quiet power that grows when you keep promises to yourself. And here's where most people fall: they wait to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. You don't get ready to be disciplined, you become disciplined by acting before you're ready. The Stoic doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" He asks, "Is it right?" That's the question that separates the ordinary from the unstoppable. Most of the chaos in your life doesn't come from others, it comes from the battle between what you know you should do and what you actually do. Every time you betray that inner knowing, your self-respect dies a little. But every time you obey that inner wisdom, even in the smallest ways, your soul grows stronger. Think of it this way: every decision you make is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Each act of discipline builds a brick in the wall of your citadel. Each surrender chips away at it. The Stoic doesn't aim for perfection, he aims for progress. He understands that the battle never ends, but that's what makes it meaningful. And somewhere in that constant war within, something incredible happens: you stop running from difficulty and start running toward it. You begin to crave the friction because it's proof that you're alive, proof that you're still moving. Pain becomes information. Delay becomes a teacher. Failure becomes fuel. By the way, if you haven't seen my video where I break down Marcus Aurelius' advice for when life feels unfair, I'll leave the link in the description. And in my other video on Epictetus, I shared how to stay calm in the middle of chaos. Both of those will give you an even deeper perspective on what we're uncovering here. I'll highly recommend you watch them, of course, after finishing this one. Because they all connect. Discipline, calm, control, they're not different virtues. They're one continuous act of inner mastery. Epictetus said that the greatest thing you can learn is how to desire only what depends on you. Once you grasp that, life stops being a series of emotional reactions and becomes a series of deliberate choices. When you start controlling your response, something almost mystical happens: the world starts losing its power over you. Insults don't sting the same way. Loss doesn't paralyze you. Obstacles stop being personal and start being purposeful. And this is the core of being unstoppable. Not that you never fall, but that nothing can stop you from rising. Discipline is not a single action, it's a relationship you build with yourself. One where you learn to trust your own hands. To believe in the value of small, invisible progress. To understand that consistency is the truest form of strength. Every time you choose the harder road, you rewrite the story of who you are. Every time you resist the easy escape, you reinforce the truth that your mind is your own. The Stoics didn't become calm by escaping emotion, they became calm by confronting it. That's the paradox most people miss. Emotional control doesn't mean emotional suppression. It means knowing that feelings are waves, and waves only drown those who fight them. The disciplined mind learns to surf them, to observe without being consumed. To feel anger but not act from it. To feel fear but not retreat because of it. To feel tired but still move forward. And this control, this invisible self-command, is what makes you unstoppable. Here's the truth no one tells you about discipline: it's not about control. It's about alignment. When your actions finally align with your highest values, discipline stops feeling like a cage and starts feeling like freedom. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't see discipline as restriction, they saw it as liberation from chaos, the chaos of desires, of emotions, of external opinions. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. How much of your life has been spent trying to control things that were never yours to control, people, outcomes, perceptions? And how much pain came from that resistance? Most of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from the story we tell ourselves about what happens. Discipline is the act of rewriting that story. It's waking up early not to prove something to others, but to prove something to yourself. It's showing up on days when no one's watching, because you understand that consistency writes destiny. It's choosing integrity when shortcuts seem faster. That's what it means to live like a Stoic in the modern world, to practice the art of self-command when distraction is the easiest addiction. But here's the paradox: the disciplined life doesn't eliminate struggle, it gives it purpose. Without purpose, struggle feels like suffering. With purpose, struggle becomes sacred. There's something holy about showing up to your own potential every day, even when no one notices. Something deeply fulfilling about keeping promises that only you will ever know about. And maybe that's what being unstoppable truly means, not winning every battle, but refusing to abandon yourself no matter how many you lose. Because if you think about it, the world isn't testing you, you are testing you. Every obstacle, every delay, every temptation is a mirror reflecting who you currently are. The person who complains, who quits, who hides from pain, that's one version of you. The person who stands, who stays, who grows despite everything, that's another. Discipline is the bridge between the two. But to walk that bridge, you have to be willing to lose something: comfort, convenience, approval. And that's where most people stop. They want the result without the refinement. They want the glory without the grind. They want mastery without the moments of despair that forge it. Yet every Stoic knew that it's the friction that makes you sharp. The discomfort that shapes you. The resistance that reveals you. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are." When life corners you, it's not cruelty, it's a call. A call to evolve. And that's the moment discipline transforms, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because every obstacle, no matter how cruel it seems, carries a hidden message. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Preparation for the kind of strength that cannot be taken away. The disciplined person doesn't react to life, he responds. He doesn't beg for easier days, he builds stronger habits. He doesn't wait for clarity, he creates it through consistent action. And that's when you become unstoppable, when you finally understand that power isn't about domination, it's about direction. Every action you take either feeds your weakness or strengthens your will. You can't serve both. That's why self-discipline is so rare, because it demands honesty. You can't fake it. You either do the work or you don't. And here's the irony: once you start living with discipline, the world begins to open up in ways comfort never could. You stop being a prisoner of your impulses. You stop being manipulated by motivation. You start operating from a deeper place, intention. When that happens, people will notice something different about you. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it, a quiet power, a steady presence, a kind of calm that isn't normal anymore. That's what happens when you finally make peace with the struggle. You no longer fight the difficulty, you use it. That's the Stoic secret. You don't avoid hardship, you alchemize it. You turn pain into progress, setbacks into structure, chaos into clarity. And that's why the undisciplined will always see the disciplined as strange, because you're not reacting like they do. You're not chasing dopamine, you're chasing direction. You're not addicted to pleasure, you're addicted to purpose. You understand something they don't, that the easy life costs you the best version of yourself. The hard life, the disciplined life, gives you everything comfort promised but never delivered, peace, strength, and meaning. Because in the end, meaning is the only real reward. And meaning only comes to those who endure. So the question is not, can you become unstoppable? The real question is, are you willing to? Are you willing to trade ease for excellence? Comfort for character? Temporary pleasure for permanent power? Because the answer to those questions will define everything about your life from this moment on. The battle within, mastering emotion and energy. There's a war that happens inside you every day. A war between your higher self, the part of you that seeks meaning, peace, and purpose, and the lower self, that craves comfort, validation, and ease. You might not see it, but you feel it. That tension between what you should do and what you want to do. Between discipline and distraction. Between peace and pleasure. And this war, my friend, is where every dream either dies or is born. The Stoics knew this battle better than anyone. They didn't try to escape it, they embraced it. Because they understood something most people never will. If you can't win the war within, you'll never conquer anything outside of you. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom isn't found in doing whatever you want. It's found in mastering your desires so they no longer control you. Because if your emotions control you, if every mood dictates your actions, if every setback breaks your focus, then the world owns you. Not the other way around. So, how do you fight this invisible battle? How do you rise above the noise of your own mind? You begin by understanding that emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers. Signals from the mind and body telling you what you still need to master. Fear shows you where your courage is being tested. Anger reveals where your expectations have chained you. Sadness reminds you of what you truly value. And anxiety, that constant hum of uncertainty, is the call to let go of control and trust the process. The Stoics didn't suppress emotions, they refined them. They turned raw energy into directed strength. When Marcus Aurelius felt anger, he didn't lash out. He wrote. He reflected. He turned the chaos inside him into clarity on the page. That's emotional mastery, not denial, but transformation. And that's your first step in becoming unstoppable. Learning to respond, not react. Because reacting is what the undisciplined do. Responding is what the wise do. Every time you pause before you act, you take back power from the external world. You reclaim control from your impulses. And slowly, you start building that inner fortress Stoicism is famous for: calm amidst chaos, stillness amidst storms. But let's be honest, in today's world, this is harder than ever. Every device, every platform, every algorithm is designed to hijack your emotions. You scroll not because you care, but because you've been conditioned to react. The modern mind is restless, overstimulated, and under-disciplined. And that's exactly why mastering emotion is now a superpower. While others are drowning in distraction, you can train yourself to rise above it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's not just philosophy, it's the foundation of mental strength. Let's bring that down to earth. When someone insults you, pause. When you lose an opportunity, reflect. When you fail, learn. Because here's the truth, every emotional outburst, every frustration, every setback is energy. You can waste it, or you can use it. Anger can destroy or build. Fear can paralyze or prepare. Pain can break or strengthen. The choice isn't in the emotion. The choice is in what you do with it. The Stoics turned emotions into motion. They didn't say, "I feel angry." They asked, "How can this anger serve something greater?" They didn't say, "I feel fear." They asked, "What does this fear want me to face?" And if you start asking yourself those questions, you'll notice something incredible. You'll stop being ruled by emotion, and start being guided by it. That's when you stop reacting like everyone else. You stop moving from chaos to chaos. And you start moving from clarity to purpose. Now, by the way, if you haven't seen my video where I break down Marcus Aurelius' advice for when life feels unfair, I'll leave the link in the description. And in my other video on Epictetus, I shared how to stay calm in the middle of chaos. Both of those will give you an even deeper perspective on what we're about to uncover here. I'll recommend you go ahead and watch those videos, of course, after watching this one. You see, the Stoics didn't seek to eliminate emotion, they sought to elevate it. To take what's raw and refine it. To take what's painful and make it purposeful. That's what Seneca meant when he said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that line. Most of the time, it's not the event itself that hurts us, it's our interpretation of it. Our mind takes one small spark and turns it into a wildfire. But when you master your inner world, the fire no longer burns you, it fuels you. The Stoics practiced a method called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They visualized difficulties before they happened, not to live in fear, but to prepare in strength. Imagine this, before a big day, before a challenge, you tell yourself, "Things might go wrong. People might disappoint me. Plans might fail." You're not being negative. You're training your mind not to be shocked by reality. That's emotional resilience. That's what makes you unshakable. You don't pray for an easy life, you prepare for a meaningful one. Because every time you rehearse peace before chaos, you make chaos powerless. That's what Stoic self-discipline really is, not suppressing what you feel, but directing it toward what matters most. You see, emotions are like wind. You can't control where they blow, but you can adjust your sails. That's the art of energy. That's the essence of mastery. Now, let's go deeper. Discipline without energy becomes burnout. Emotion without discipline becomes destruction. Balance both, and you become unstoppable. Energy management is emotional management. Most people waste their energy reacting to notifications, to opinions, to problems. The discipline few invested in focus, creation, reflection. Every morning, ask yourself, where will my energy go today? If you don't decide, the world will decide for you. The Stoics started each day with reflection, not on what they wanted, but on who they wanted to be. They didn't ask for luck, they asked for strength. They didn't complain about life's unfairness, they trained to meet it with calm. That's the difference between a reactive life and a conscious one. A reactive life is built on emotion. A conscious life is built on intention. So, when you wake up tomorrow, instead of reaching for your phone, reach for your focus. Instead of scrolling, start journaling. Instead of complaining, start aligning. That's Stoicism in action, small disciplines, daily mastery. And over time, those tiny moments create massive transformation. The truth is, there is no overnight mastery. There's only repeated courage. Every time you choose awareness over impulse, patience over panic, growth over comfort, you win another battle within. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. That's how you win the only war that ever really mattered, the one with yourself. The Stoics believed that once you mastered your inner world, no external world could shake you. So when the storm comes, and it will, you don't collapse. You don't panic. You breathe. You remind yourself, this is not happening to me. It's happening for me. Because that's what discipline gives you, not a life free of pain, but a life full of meaning. And meaning makes pain bearable. That's why the strongest people you'll ever meet are rarely the loudest. They've simply made peace with struggle. They've learned that emotional control is the ultimate strength, because it means nothing outside you can control you. That's when you become the calm in the storm, the center in the chaos, the stillness in the noise. That's what it means to be truly unstoppable. The discipline of action, turning thought into power. There comes a moment when reflection must turn into movement. When understanding must become embodiment. Because philosophy without action is like a flame without oxygen, it flickers for a moment, then dies. The Stoics knew this truth better than anyone. They didn't read wisdom just to know it, they practiced it to become it. Seneca said, philosophy is not a classroom subject, but a medicine for the soul. And medicine only works if you take it. In your journey of becoming unstoppable, self-discipline is not about harsh control. It's about alignment, aligning what you know with what you do. Because your knowledge means nothing if it doesn't transform the way you live. You've probably felt this before, that gap between intention and action. You say you'll wake early, but the bed wins. You say you'll stay calm, but anger rises. You say you'll start today, but fear whispers, tomorrow. That's the human condition, the tug-of-war between clarity and comfort. Marcus Aurelius faced it too. In his private writings, he once scolded himself for not wanting to rise from bed at dawn. He said, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. He didn't mean labor in the physical sense. He meant the work of living with purpose. The work of being awake to life. So, let's ask, what does your daily work as a human being look like? Because that's where unstoppable growth begins. In the simple, invisible, consistent acts of showing up. You see, people chase motivation. But the Stoics didn't rely on motivation. They relied on discipline. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark fades. Motivation depends on mood. Discipline depends on decision. That's why the Stoics trained not for short bursts of inspiration, but for endurance. They built habits that turned virtue into second nature. Think about Epictetus, born a slave. He couldn't control his circumstances, but he could control his effort. He couldn't choose his master, but he could choose his mindset. And that's the foundation of Stoic self-discipline. Your control lies not in what you can't do, but in what you will do, again and again, no matter what. Let's get practical. Every time you delay gratification, you train the mind to serve the soul. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you strengthen your will. Every time you do what's hard when no one's watching, you build power no one can take. And power, in this sense, is not dominance over others, it's mastery over self. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." Because courage liberates you from the slavery of comfort. And comfort, though sweet, is the silent killer of greatness. Most people never grow because they never endure discomfort long enough to meet the version of themselves waiting on the other side. They quit when it hurts. They stop when it's inconvenient. They break when life demands consistency. But here's the secret: pain is the gatekeeper of transformation. Every person you admire, ancient or modern, walked through it. They faced rejection, failure, loss. But they didn't stop there. They used it. That's the Stoic way. Turning pain into practice. Turning struggle into strength. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are. The untrained complain, the disciplined improve." So, when life tests you, and it will, remember this. The obstacle isn't blocking your path, it is the path. This idea isn't just poetic, it's practical. Because every time you move toward discomfort instead of away from it, you're reshaping your identity. You're proving to your mind that you are not fragile. That's the essence of self-discipline, not restriction, but freedom from weakness. And once you realize that, you'll never see difficulty the same way again. There's something powerful that happens when you stop arguing with reality. When you stop wishing things were easier, and instead, start wishing to be stronger. That shift changes everything. Because self-discipline doesn't mean forcing life into your plan. It means training yourself to move with life, not against it. The Stoics understood rhythm, the flow of effort and rest, motion and stillness. Marcus Aurelius balanced his duties as emperor with introspection. Seneca balanced wealth with wisdom. Epictetus balanced adversity with awareness. They didn't aim for a life of extremes, they aimed for equilibrium. And that's something the modern mind forgets. We glorify hustle, but ignore harmony. We chase productivity but neglect presence. The Stoic path teaches you that being unstoppable doesn't mean being unfeeling or overworked. It means being centered. Unmoved by chaos. Unafraid of stillness. Unbroken by setbacks. Because your power isn't found in constant motion, it's found in deliberate motion. Now, remember the previous video, 10 daily self-improvement habits that will change your life forever. There, we explored habits that build discipline brick by brick: morning reflection, voluntary discomfort, gratitude, journaling. This video goes deeper. By the way, if you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link in the description. Because while habits create foundation, discipline builds structure. And structure gives meaning to motion. You can't live powerfully if your actions lack purpose. The Stoics knew that. They didn't just act, they acted from principle. Before speaking, they asked, "Is this true?" Before acting, they asked, "Is this necessary?" Before reacting, they asked, "Is this aligned with virtue?" Imagine applying that level of awareness to your day, your relationships, your work, your ambitions. You'd eliminate 90% of wasted effort. That's the power of conscious discipline. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. So, the next time you sit in silence, don't underestimate it. The next time you reflect before reacting, you're practicing mastery. The next time you act with intention instead of impulse, you're walking the Stoic path. And over time, those small acts of clarity compound into unstoppable momentum. But let's talk about failure. Because even the disciplined fail. Even the wise fall. Marcus Aurelius doubted himself. Seneca made mistakes. Epictetus had bad days. The difference is, they didn't stay there. Failure, to them, wasn't shameful. It was sacred. Seneca wrote, "The road to wisdom is paved with error." In other words, the fall is part of the rise. That's the paradox of growth. You learn discipline through the very moments that test it. So, when you slip, don't start over, continue stronger. That's real discipline. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be present. Because every setback, every mistake, every relapse is feedback. It's life saying, you're still learning. And the Stoics would tell you, keep learning. Keep moving. Because the world doesn't respect what you say you'll do. It respects what you actually do. Here's the truth most people avoid. You will never feel ready. You will never feel like it. And that's okay. Because readiness is a myth. You act not because you feel ready, but because you decide to. That's the Stoic power of will. Seneca said, "The willing are led by fate, the unwilling are dragged." Meaning, life is moving, whether you move with it or not. You can resist and suffer, or align and grow. The disciplined choose the latter. They show up tired. They show up uncertain. They show up anyway. Because they understand that action is not about comfort, it's about commitment. That's what separates the unstoppable from the ordinary. Not talent, not luck, consistency. You may not control the outcome, but you control the effort. And effort, multiplied by time, transforms everything. If there's one thing you take from this chapter, let it be this. Action is the bridge between potential and power. Every thought, every intention, every plan, means nothing without movement. So, move. Even when you're afraid. Even when it's uncertain. Even when it's hard. Because that movement is what reshapes your destiny. It's what turns reflection into reality. And that's the discipline of action, not grand gestures, but daily proof that you are willing to live your philosophy. There comes a moment when all the noise fades. The world still spins, chaos still dances in the streets, but within you, there's silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from isolation, but the kind born from mastery. This is what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of unshakable tranquility. And to reach it, you don't escape life, you enter it fully. You move with life, instead of resisting it. You become fluid, centered, and anchored at once. That's the essence of becoming unstoppable. Because true strength, Stoic strength, isn't a wall. It's water. It flows through everything, adapts, and shapes the world without forcing it. The flow of the Stoic mind. Most people think Stoicism is about suppression. About being emotionless, detached, robotic. But that's the biggest misunderstanding of all. Stoicism isn't about feeling less. It's about being less owned by what you feel. You still get angry. You still get afraid. You still get hurt. But those emotions no longer control the steering wheel of your life. Epictetus said it perfectly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This isn't just a quote, it's a mental formula. The Stoic flow begins when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "How can I respond with excellence?" Every moment becomes an opportunity. Every challenge, a forge. Every setback, a test of composure. The flow of the Stoic mind is like a river, it doesn't stop for obstacles. It moves around them, reshapes them, and keeps going. That's how peace and progress coexist. The warrior's stillness. There's a kind of calm that only warriors understand. Not the peace of safety, but the peace of control under pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations while commanding armies during a plague and war. Imagine that, an emperor at the center of collapsing empires, sitting down each night to write. Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. That's not poetry, that's strategy. When you cultivate this stillness, you become untouchable. Because while others panic, you pause. While others react, you reflect. And in that pause lies your power. The pause is where your higher self steps in. The one that sees life not as a battlefield to win, but as a classroom to learn. And from that stillness, discipline is born. Not the kind of discipline that feels like punishment, but the kind that feels like freedom. Because you're no longer a slave to impulse. The Stoic flow in modern life. Today's world thrives on noise. Notifications, opinions, endless scrolling, synthetic outrage. The system wants your attention, your reactivity, your exhaustion. But when you become the calm force, you break the system. Because nothing frustrates chaos more than stillness. When others argue, you listen. When others rush, you wait. When others complain, you act. You start moving differently, with intention. You wake up not because of pressure, but because of purpose. Your actions stop being reactions and become expressions of who you are. This is the state of flow the Stoics lived for. A life in perfect harmony between thought, action, and being. Seneca said, "A person who lives according to nature will never be poor, a person who lives according to opinion will never be rich." When you align your actions with reason, and your reason with virtue, you stop chasing calmness. You become calmness. And that's when something shifts. The world doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. Your peace becomes louder than other people's noise. Your focus cuts through distraction like light through fog. And your life begins to flow in a rhythm that feels almost divine. You start to see that every difficult moment wasn't there to punish you, but to polish you. Every frustration, every failure, every loss was crafting the version of you that stands here now. Calm, powerful, unstoppable. That's the Stoic flow. A dance between surrender and control. You accept what you can't change, and you perfect what you can. You release the rest. Because when you learn to control your inner world, no outer chaos can control you. And maybe, that's the secret to it all. To become the calm in the storm, not because the storm stopped, but because you learned how to breathe through it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You don't find peace in escape. You find peace in mastery. You don't need to run away from chaos. You need to rise within it. That's how you become unstoppable. That's how you live a life worth living." So the next time life tests you, remember, the goal isn't to be unbothered. The goal is to be unbroken. You can be calm and powerful, peaceful and driven, still and unstoppable. That's what it means to live like a Stoic. That's what it means to master yourself. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, like, share, and comment your favorite insight below. And if it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. We explore timeless wisdom for the modern mind every week. And hey, if you want to dive deeper into mastering yourself, watch the videos showing now on screen. They'll guide you further down the path to calm, focus, and freedom. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and never stop becoming the calm force in a chaotic world.